when the behavior of your customers, be they healthcare professionals, healthcare systems, or patients change, markets change, and the winners are going to change as well.
Healthcare, it is restless. Doctors are asking AI for answers, patients are asking AI for answers. And pharma, well, we're still trying to work out whether or not the old playbook has another season left in it. In this episode of Off Label, I'm joined by Alex Condoleon, Chief Medical Affairs Officer of Medical Engagements and Impact at Pfizer. Fresh from delivering one of the standout keynotes at the NEXT Pharma Summit in Dubrovnik to unpack what he calls the Restlessness Gap. Why AI is moving faster than our ability to absorb it, why business as usual has stopped working, and why medical affairs may be more relevant in this new world than ever before. This isn't a doom story, it's a call to move, because restlessness can leave you circling in indecision, or it can become energy in disguise. Let's get into it. Welcome back to the Off Label podcast. We're in for a real treat today for the listeners. I've got with me Alex Condoleon from Pfizer. Alex, so wonderful to have you here.
Steve, it's awesome to join you, and let alone the title of the podcast. I just know it's going to be a great discussion. So thanks for the opportunity.
That's right. Nothing stirs people up quicker than a bit of an off-label chat. And I'm actually from a commercial background, so I shouldn't be even touching this. In fact, the word itself, off-label, should be off-label. Limits to me. Off-label should be off limits. But anyway, we're going to discuss something today that you touched on at the awesome NEXT Pharma Summit in Dubrovnik. Was that a month ago now? It's more than a month. It's flown by. But I'll just let the listeners know, Alex, we're in the presence of a stage master. Alex took home the what we'd call in Australia the gold logie for the best speech or the best presentation, best keynote of the day for his discussion. And I couldn't let the opportunity go without trying to dive a little bit deeper into what the premise of that discussion was. So, Alex, the keynote was all around what we've kind of framed as the restlessness gap. Let's just start off and talk about what exactly is the restlessness gap. What context are we using that in?
Yeah, so, I really think we're living through one of the most unique periods in humanity. And, maybe if I can just throw a couple of points at you. ChatGPT reaching 100 million users in 2 months. I've tried to look at what else comes close. And the only thing I can find is Pokemon Go. And it sort of came and went, right? It came and went. And it was more in the entertainment rather than the enterprise sort of suite.
Oh, the AR, actually, sorry to interrupt, but the AR junk that came off the back of Pokemon and everybody trying to replicate this success is not too dissimilar to what's going on now with a bunch of AI garbage and junk that's popping up in light of the freight train that's running away from us. But anyway, please,
I think
please go
so.
on.
And all of it points to something which we've probably been building towards as societies over the last couple of years, which is just this comfort and trust in digital, that when it solves a problem, we know how to embrace it quickly. And the innovators know how to make it fit for purpose quick. But, there's always good and bad to situations. And for me, a starting point is to sort of say, a lot of us are talking about AI right now. And so how do you feel about that when you talk about it? Do you feel excited? Do you feel nervous? And my word's restless. I think society today is restless. And I, think organizations today are restless. And I think leaders today are restless.
Yep.
And I guess I would describe that restlessness in a couple of ways. I'd firstly sort of say, when the pace of external change exceeds the internal capacity of an organization to embrace that change, well, that creates restlessness. When all of us can sort of see what the future might look like, but we're not quite sure how we're going to get there, well, that creates restlessness. And I think you touched on it a little bit before, but when societal attitudes for AI and against AI are all almost equal in terms of excitement and concern, well, that creates restlessness. And I guess if I can just land on one more point about restlessness, I love the term restlessness because on the one hand, when we're restless, we can circle in indecision. And to pause right now is to run the risk of being left behind. But we can also recognize that restlessness is a form of energy in disguise, and it can propel us to decisive action, especially in healthcare, to move things forward. And I think that's the conundrum that we need to solve today.
It's a really wonderful, coherent explanation for restlessness, and I think it would resonate 100% with pharma in particular, because healthcare is probably, as you touched on in your speech, it's emerging as one of the fastest moving sectors for AI adoption. And as that adoption is taking place across healthcare, pharma, traditionally quite slow to pivot and adapt and follow other industries. It's almost like the theory of spaghettification. It's moving fast. We're trying to go with it, but we're just getting strung out, trying to keep up. I imagine this is adding to a bit of anxiety, perhaps, across the industry and from some perspectives.
Yeah, look, I think that, so firstly, I think like all societies are under all organizations and society are under pressure right now. But what I think is exciting about this period is that healthcare is front and center of this moment of AI transformation. And I think I keep talking about it, Steve, because I think people don't believe it. But if you just look at it, it's front and center, and it has significant implications for life sciences, pharma, device land. I actually think it's got significant implications no matter where in healthcare you sit. If you're sitting in the seat of a regulator, you're trying to catch up. If you're sitting in the seat of a payer, you're trying to catch up. If you're a busy doctor, you are being bombarded by more information, by more empowered patients than ever before, and you've got to keep up and hopefully be a step ahead. So the threshold that everyone has lifted, I think the starting point of responding to that threshold is recognizing what's going on. 1/3 of adults today are already using AI for general health inquiries. But you go to patients and it's over 70%. There's been a recent AMA survey in the US, over 80% of HCPs are using AI in some form. In America, one of the dominant platforms is referred to as open evidence. It's like an AI summary of the literature. In the month of April, they disclosed that they had 65% of HCPs in the US asking over 27 million questions in 1 month alone. This isn't like token
number
stuff. It's not the side. It's now the core. And that's, I think, what's got to get our attention.
Well, it certainly has, and you make an interesting point that healthcare is now front and center. We've been thrust into the spotlight. We've watched or observed a lot of things come and go from, say, social media and the hype around the metaverse and NFTs and Web3 and all that sort of stuff. We're quite happy to watch, FMCG companies or other types of industries fumble or embrace or make do and watch the learns and losses. But we don't really have the opportunity now to observe anymore because it's our sector that's moving ahead. And I'm really interested to lean into a bit of what you said here around open evidence and AI technologies that clinicians in particular are moving into, because I think it's going to affect, if not already, our industry more than maybe anything else. We've, as pharma companies, we've long enjoyed a certain sphere of influence over the medical community via providing value-added services and information, from sales to key account to medical affairs, of course. Now that clinicians are acquiring knowledge in other places, and it's not even arguably, it most certainly is more efficient, but we can touch on the accuracy in a moment. But how does this impact pharma moving forward, if not already? How do we react? Because when it comes to influence, it seems that opportunity to influence is shrinking from the pharma company perspective. Where are we headed? What do you think?
Yeah, look, I think that maybe another way of framing it would be to sort of say, when the behavior of your customers, be they healthcare professionals, healthcare systems, or patients, change, markets change, and the winners are going to change as well. So, I mean, the first thing I would call out is like, now is a moment of change. And, the business as usual playbook, well, it stopped working. So we're going to be willing to test, learn, and find what the new approach is going to be. But, my starting point is to say pharma has understood a lot of ways to bring value to customers. And I don't think that value has disappeared. But the threshold of being relevant on those value drivers has been lifted. Because when someone can go to AI and trust its summarization enough that they get answers when they want them, I think the question for us is, how do we go above and beyond that? And we can go above and beyond that. We're just going to have to understand how, when, and where, and with who we go above and beyond that. But, it is unquestionable that the, readiness of our customer groups is moving faster than we're able to respond.
Yeah.
But I think that's just typical of like any industry that is in the moment of rediscovering how the value is going to come together. And the one thing that I would just call out is I don't think the future footprint of healthcare is going to be done in industry functional silos. We are moving into a more connected healthcare ecosystem than what it's ever been like before. So I think the winners are the ones who are going to piece together the value chain across the stakeholders.
Yeah.
And pharma has a lot of value in healthcare. So it's a question of relevance within the context of an ecosystem. I think partnering, foundational science, trust, they're more important than ever before. It's just pushing us to go further rather than making us not relevant to the moment.
It's a huge, huge point that you've touched on. If pharma is going to keep up, the organisations do have to pivot and change and find different way of workings to provide value. You mentioned the word silo, innovation killers, and it'll be, what's the analogy? A Titanic. You just won't be able to move fast enough in time, and we all know what happened there. But do you see glimpses across the industry? You've been to a few different industry events now. Some of without question, some of the best in the event business. Are there glimpses of optimism? Are there people talking about, this is how we can do it, or we are doing it, but we're not telling you, and things like that? Is there other wheels of change turning at a rapid enough revolution to actually deliver in this?
Yeah, look, I think it's a key debate we need to be having right now. I think the first thing that I'd say of people in the digital health medtech space is there is optimism for what healthcare is going to look like, and I think that it's an important moment for us to reflect that no matter what imperfections and hallucinations we want to point out, there's probably more benefit to AI today than there is risk associated with AI today. That doesn't mean we can leave it without guardrails. It just means there's a reality check. It's being adopted for a reason, and it's only going to get better. And therefore, it's a moment to think about how you get on the train. Having said that, I also feel from a leadership perspective, we've never had the opportunity that we've got right now to move healthcare forward, and never has it been so hard to drive and embed change.
Yeah.
So I think, the differentiator is actually not the technology anymore. If you went back 5 years in what I would call like the machine learning era, like it was hard to really get a breakthrough, and tech was the breakthrough. That's not where we're at. Today with AI, it's ahead of where we're at. And that means it's more a challenge to leaders to think about, how do I embrace and adopt more quickly? How do I win hearts of people internally and externally? Because that's what's going to drive the difference. And I think that's the challenge that all of us are dealing with today. It's the friction that stops us moving fast, because a lot of us can see what it is. We can see it works. We can see it's got value. We can see it needs humans and loop and guardrails and all that sort of important foundation. But that's not the friction that's stopping us. And I think that's where we're going to have to follow that path. All those micro changes that build up to macro change. That's where we're going to make a difference when we think about AI and the speed we can move at.
Agreed. The micro changes, they've all got to build up to macro, but it starts with macro decisions at leadership level. You and leaders like you need to fully be cognizant of the opportunities, risks, and everything that's presenting to the industry at the moment, and make calculated decisions. But I think overwhelmingly there needs to be a willingness to embrace. Now, there's a lot of leaders in the industry maybe are not too far off from clocking out for the last time, and maybe aren't as motivated to do this, and maybe have seen a few things come and go and think, look, the industry's well and truly embedded, that nothing's going to change too much. I've seen this type of personality, and it's well forged in experience, so you can certainly understand where people are coming from. But when the challenge really is leadership, how do we ensure that leadership's from the CEO down through the C-suite and into operations? How do we get buy-in at this level? Is there buy-in? Is it your experience that people are excited and the instructions coming down from above to, yes, guys, get on this. We'll figure it out, but jump in and embrace it in whatever capacity you can. What's the general sentiment amongst leadership in the industry? Do you have any eyeballs?
Yeah. Look, I think firstly, if you go back to JPM, I like to half joke, but I feel like most CEOs turned up and they said China's important and AI is important. And they are both in their own way important and potentially disruptive and potential future value drivers. So I feel like there's recognition. I think it's important to call out that one of the CEOs of one of the big pharmas now sits on the board of Anthropic. That is a phenomenal statement. Yeah, that's a
Who's
phenomenal.
That? Can I
that's
ask?
bad. That's from Novartis. It was
Right.
announced today. Yeah. So,
He's
I mean, like, that's a phenomenal statement. Yeah,
he's
but it's a phenomenal
achieving
statement.
rock star status.
So, yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah.
Phenomenal statement.
Yep.
So I think that there is genuine recognition across the industry that AI is playing a disproportionate role in healthcare. That doesn't mean we know what to do about it. It just means we know it's playing a disproportionate role in healthcare. But
that's the first step.
I was going to say, I feel like it's different to like 5 or 10 years ago. Because 5 or 10 years ago, I felt like you could say every executive leadership group is talking about digital's role in healthcare, just no one quite knows how to do it. I think you fast forward to today, and it's a very different thematic of discussion. It's an inevitability that we are going to be enriched by this.
Yep.
I don't think it's doomsday. I think it's the opposite. I think it's optimism that it will help us potentially in discovery, hopefully in development, certainly in go-to-market. And so, I think there's that area of benefit that's going to come from it. But it's going to fundamentally make us rethink assumptions that have us grounded in today. Because the sort of rules by which we play are changing. But I think the optimism's there. I think you're right. We can always look at, I don't know, like the Kodaks of the past. And it's like, how could they have missed it? How could they have missed it? I'm sort of I'm optimistic that our place is likely to be reinforced. Doesn't mean it won't change, but likely be reinforced. And I think that that's us building on, our foundational core. And a lot of our foundational core comes down to like science, credibility, trust. We sometimes doubt ourselves about this thing, right? We look at the understandable critique of how we can do better as an industry. But I think we should never negate that while there's room for us to engage in that discussion, there's fundamental value that we've brought to move society forward. That's not going anywhere. And that's only a question of, can we go further, faster, more cost effectively, more equitably for the populations we're seeking to serve? That's all within the realm of what AI could deliver.
Yeah, there's certainly, you can put a question mark around, field impact and support in various aspects, but doctors are people, and as much as we all love playing with AI and talking to Claude or chat, we love people back, particularly healthcare people. Nobody gets into healthcare if they don't like people. It just wouldn't make sense. But so to that, the relationship opportunities and to deliver value at major conferences, the Orbis was, say, advisory boards and getting feedback on real world issues and experience. These things may even be augmented even more, and you'll be able to create much more impact because of the enthusiasm to get together in these maybe rarer moments, but maybe more impactful.
Yeah, I think that's why we should have optimism, right? I mean, like we know what we've been saying that we've been moving towards. Right? Let's just use the catchphrase of omnichannel. right? And we've been sort of
What's that?
saying,
No,
yeah, what
no.
is that? What's that? What's that a big word mean? But, we've been saying we wanted to know what the right patient is in the right channel at the right time with the right content.
Yep.
Well, I mean, AI makes each of those levers possible in a way that we could never have imagined, 12 months ago. So there's nothing about that equation that is not good. If I bring it down to one of our most critical channels, the face-to-face channel, I
Yep.
think the question on us is like, how do we make it even easier for customer-facing colleagues to easily unearth information that is going to be most resonant and relevant to the ACP that they're about to meet with? How
Yep.
can we take even more insight and understanding from those conversations and in a more real-time way, feed them through the whole value chain, whether it's back in research or development or going into our integrated evidence plans. And it's funny because we can say this and we can make it all sound like nice and theoretical and like we should do it on a PowerPoint slide or something like this. But that's not the moment we're in. The moment
Yep.
we're in is where the only thing stopping that becoming a reality is our ambition.
Yep.
And so I think there is a significant moment of opportunity for us. Now, I think that to the thematic you've been touching, Steve, like, is there a fear zone we have to navigate with teams? Absolutely. People are rightly worried about whether they need to be reskilled, whether they're about to be re-rolled. And obviously, people are also concerned about whether there's risk of redundancy. And I think we need to address all three of those. But if I can
Mm-hmm.
just bring it down to medical affairs for a second,
Yep.
I believe medical affairs is more relevant in the world that we are stepping into than ever before. And, over the years, we've talked about things like medical affairs being this sort of third strategic pillar between R&D and commercial. I think that's a thing of the past. I think we need to be talking about our relevance in the external world, not in the internal pharma world. And when you think about relevance in the external world, where the expectation has gone up, I think it
Yep.
fits exactly what medical affairs value is. So if we get it right, if we're willing to move, if we're willing to prove, if we're willing to drive and take accountability in a more empowered, strategic function way, I think we'll be rewarded for that. And I think you'll see, net net, the function move to a whole new level, not move backwards, but to a whole new
Yep.
level. But it will take courage for us to get there.
Absolutely. And you reflect on the saying now, there needs to be a human in the loop. That human could be the medical affairs representative only if they're not leaving a big gap in the loop and continuing the loop and
Right.
embracing the technology in order to do that and upping everybody's experience and value. It's plenty of reasons for optimism. Maybe the listeners now are a little less restless for hearing it, but maybe we could. We like to finish off with a little bit of heat and energy. We're going to do a couple of rapid fire. I'm going to throw some questions at you, Alex, and you just don't dive too deep, but
Okay.
throw us your wisdom as succinctly as you can. You're exceptional at doing that. And then we're going to finish off with our usual movie analogies. So, well, let's see how we go. So, rapid fire. One thing healthcare leaders are underestimating about AI.
We're at the beginning.
We're at the
We're at the
beginning.
beginning. We're at the beginning. Yeah. It's an unstoppable force, and we are at the
Yep.
beginning.
Wonderful. Okay. One thing medical affairs should stop doing.
Wow, that's a hard question. What should we stop doing? Huh.
It was easy when I was in sales. You just say, stop brass plating. But that was...
It's a good question.
Stop pretending everything's okay.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that we should stop doubting ourselves. I
Good.
think sometimes medical affairs leaders doubt their intrinsic value in the healthcare ecosystem. It's more relevant and more impactful than ever before.
Yeah, not just healthcare ecosystem. You see it in the pharma ecosystem, this third strategic pillar, yet it seems to be in many cases the quieter voice in the leadership meetings. So yeah, well played. Agree with that. Okay, one thing medical affairs, if that's something they should stop, what should they start doing? You could probably just flip it and say
it's all about leaning in on AI. I think the more AI fluent we are, the more AI fluent our organizations are going to be, and we'll be rewarded for it.
One capability every future leader in medical affairs will need.
Comfort with failure.
Oh, I
Right
love
now,
that. I love that.
that's the currency. That's the
So
currency. And
many.
it's like, fail your way to success. Fail your way to success, Steve.
Yeah, no,
No
I love
one
it.
knows the rule book right now. Fail your way to success.
It's fantastic. As long as there's no repercussions for failure and that are unnecessary, which we've probably seen before. There's obviously been a huge reluctance to cross the line in medical affairs and get a black mark next to your name. It can travel around with you, but it's a different playing field now. One prediction sounds unrealistic today, but may become reality within, well, I've got 5 years written here, but could be 6 months, the way things are going.
It could be. I say pay attention to digital twins. I was doubtful of the concept. I'm now compelled to believe it's coming and it's real and it's going to be significant in healthcare.
So I first heard that discussed by, I can't remember his name, somebody from Moderna, and it would have been about 5 years ago at an event talking about what could be done there. And yeah, it did sound a little bit fantastic at the time, but this is in terms of drug development you're referring to?
I think it's got a role in drug development. I think it's got a role in how we deploy our medications into healthcare. You know, they might be early studies, but there have been some initial studies that have looked at using a digital twin to take an approved therapy, but to dose it differently based on biomarkers and live flow or biometric data. And it's based on science, right? It's based on when does someone have to be exposed to a drug versus when they don't. And in some cases is showing incremental efficacy by being more sensitive to when to dose and not. I think they might be early signals, but I think they are profoundly important signals. And so
huge implications.
What I thought was a completely unrealistic sort of sci-fi futuristic form of science, I'm now compelled to believe is something that I and you should pay attention to.
Well, if Alex says pay attention to it, that's a hot tip. Get behind it. I used to be a gambling man, and there was a person who used to give good tips, and they always came true. Alex, I'd put you in that category in the very much less controversial world of medicine and AI and technology. They're much less risky, but maybe not. Hey, let's get to the fun part to finish off with. We like to do a little bit of a movie theatre genre or movie type that plays into what the discussion's been around. So what I want you to do is just imagine healthcare, pharma ignores the warning signs that we've been talking about. The way that the landscape's changing, pharma thinks, you know what, it's cool. We got this. Let's just keep rolling. KPIs are staying the same. Just go about your business, everyone. But the technology accelerates. Customers continue to change, and that being patients and clinicians, their acquisition habits, where they go to seek knowledge. But we are stuck in our same modes of operating. Do you have a movie that best describes that future, and why?
I feel like I could list 5. How about we start with Thank You for Not Smoking?
Yes.
You know, I go back to that movie because, like, I would never want to be a physician that is profiled in a movie that's talking about something that hasn't been beneficial for the well-being of the population that we're part of. And I think that we should be part of a success story, not part of a reflective story that's critiquing what we've done in this moment. We have a world of opportunity before us. We need to do it the right way. And I think we will.
I think it's a great way to finish up. I am grateful. We did discuss this briefly before. You mentioned you may have to go into a basic instinct thing, which really would have tested the graphic generation at the end where I used to promote it. I was going to say, I'll do a lot of things for clicks, but AIifying myself into a Sharon Stone-esque character may have reached my final threshold.
I was just trying to make your job easier, Steve.
It would have been an interesting one. Alex, it's been great to speak with you. For the listeners, please follow Alex on LinkedIn and his Dose of Innovation series of communications. Really interesting stuff, cutting edge, really relevant, massive talking points that you'll be able to bring into your organisation and contribute at home. So, Alex, it's always great to speak to a fellow Australian. Thanks for staying up over there in New York City. What's on for the rest of the evening? You're going to pack it up, or you've got to pile through the work still?
You know, there's a little bit of football being played, so I actually want to know what the latest results are looking like, including a game that's probably just finished. I'm up in Boston, so up here in Boston, and
nice.
And I think that might be how I round out the evening. But I'm going to say, you know, thank you for all you do for medical affairs. I think all of us lift our professionalism thanks to communities like this that you're forming. So thank you, Steve. Keep it up. Great to be part of this with you.
You're very kind. Thanks, Alex. Have a great night, mate.
Pleasure. You too.
Bye for now. See you next time.